My name is Thomas Walton, and I am here this evening in a manner of speaking as the advertisement for this evening's program. I'll be very brief. It is actually my joy and great pleasure to announce this evening's presentation as the very first Clarence C. Walton Memorial Lecture, which is named in honor of my father, who was president of the Catholic University from 1969 to 1978. He is not with us this evening. He is with us on Earth. He is not here this evening. Just in case he's listening. There we go. Advice from the speaker. But I do want to report that I know he's very deeply honored by this very special tribute. But maybe more importantly, very excited about the theme of this lecture series. This is an annual endowed series, and it is in our society, which is a secular society, this series is devoted to the study and exploration and discussion of the meaning and the value, the significance of the sacred in our secular society. It's a discussion, a debate that's very appropriate to our Catholic University of America and very appropriate to our School of Architecture and Planning. So we welcome you here to the beginning, but we also welcome you in future years as the discussion continues. Actually, the series will be a series of published lectures if all goes as planned, and we hope to get the monograph out on this one in the fall, so you can keep posted on our progress and the debate that goes on here. Just one more word. Every institution is most well served by its people, where it finds its energy and its enthusiasm. And in that regard, I'd like to mention a few special words about one of our faculty members, whose name is Ricardo Ortega Loosely. We call him Rich Loosely because our accents are so bad. In any case, Richard has been a source of great energy and enthusiasm here for over 10 years now, a bundle of energy that I've barely been able to keep up with. And he has, as part of that energetic drive, been a real champion of the sacred inside our School of Architecture, a champion of sacred design. And he's lectured and given many papers, indeed throughout the world. I always get jealous when I hear about his next trip. He runs very popular lectures on ritual and sacred design. And more recently, in the past 2 semesters, has used his studios to focus on the nature of sacred architecture and design. And it's indeed through this last pathway that we have been able to transform the dream of this memorial lecture series into a reality. And so this evening, I'd simply like you to welcome our very special Richard Loosely, who will welcome our very special distinguished guest this evening and introduce him. Thank you.
I think it's also appropriate, given that this is the final lecture of the series, to thank my TAs, Jack Burden and Matt Sheridan, for their assistance in setting up the mechanics of all 4 lectures this semester. I also want to thank the AIS chapter throughout this past semester for running a post-lecture reception. I also want to thank Transvator Bookstore, who will be here after the lecture for, I don't know if you knew this, you're going to sign your books. Up the honorarium here. There'll be a book signing after the lecture for those of you interested in purchasing one of 2 or 3 volumes of Enric's books. I also want to thank my students. I have 18 students this semester who went with me very patiently for 10 days to Barcelona, an incredible city where we met with Enric, we met with his assistant Joseph, and did a little charrette in Barcelona. Ultimately burning candles all over the city, but having a great experience both by day and by night. I'm also interested in the profane. I first met Enric in 1991 at an international conference on the architecture of death in Seville, Spain, where he presented his project on Igualada Cemetery, which was both an incredible piece of architecture as much as it was an incredible piece of landscape. It was a powerful urban landscape, hence the urban landscape is part of the series. It was a sacred space, a sacred landscape, looking up to the Clarence Walton theme. And I think that covers the two issues that we're going to be discussing tonight. I'm very happy you showed up, Enric, because the last 2 times I invited Spanish architects, one of them was your ex-wife and partner, Carmen Pinez. They both canceled on me at the last minute. I don't want to go into a whole litany of Enric's accomplishments. They are published in his books, which will be on sale outside. Suffice to know that he's an internationally renowned architect, which you can see by the presence of the audience tonight. He was born in Barcelona, studied in the School of Architecture, he graduated in 1978. He's currently a professor there. But he's also taught at Harvard University and has currently teaching at Harvard, and has lectured in the AA in London, the OAF in Oslo, I don't know what these initials mean, the TB in Berlin, the TAF in Norway, SCIARC, SciArc in California, and now you can add CUA in Washington, D.C. But just to give you, that's Enric and his accomplishments. What was interesting for me, I'd like to share with you today, is walking around Washington, D.C. today. We went to Union Station. I was so impressed with how civil, we had breakfast there, how civil Washington was. We walked down to the East Wing, where he was enthralled by the Calder exhibit. He bought 4 books on Calder, heavy books, and he explained to me that he was doing this because he lost all his books in his recent divorce, so he had to rebuild his library. As we crossed the street over to near the Holocaust Museum, he was enthralled by the lines in the street that had been painted. They were quite wobbly at one point, so he was taking pictures of the wobbly white lines in the street. He took pictures of the cracks in the concrete and in the base of the Washington Monument. He took pictures of the grass that grew around the base of at the top of the Vietnam Memorial. He said things only an architect could appreciate. These are things that I think help explain Enric's love and passion for architecture and his attention to detail and his attention to the idea of sight. And I would like to welcome you, Enric, to Washington. This is his first visit, and to Catholic University.
I accepted to come, most also because of our relation, but also a lot about curiosity about your city. And this trip is short, but for me it was very, very important. And also the theme that the foundation asked me to talk about. It was a kind of challenge. And so we are not going to talk about my recent work. Some of the things, yes, but not much. But I will try to say something about the subject through my work. So, because I think in a way I entered this issue of the religious buildings a bit by chance. I mean, the cemetery was a winning competition, and really we entered the competition as one project more. The thing is that really because it was really maybe one of the first major projects, and in a way the construction is so slow. You would see a lot of slides of things how they go very slow. So that was, I think, 85 or something like that. And then the chapel is still unfinished. So I think it's been a kind of companion, and it's been companion through other projects. So in a way, a lot of my work is mixed with that, because in a way or another, this is still in the office, it's still on the table, it's still, you need to answer some telephone calls. So I think it's like, for me it was kind of like a learning path. So in a way, even I'm not talking about this as my recent work, but at the same time it keeps being recent, it keeps being something that still I'm working with it. And also, I think that probably has influenced my work in the way of fixing a kind of continuity between the projects, thinking that some issues could go from one project into the next. Something not just thinking that the project finished when construction finished, because as you will see, construction never finished. I think really it's in a way or another it's been quite crucial. So talking about that makes sense. The other thing was, I think, the challenge to make a communication with the studio that we did a bit together in the charrette, and I've seen the results, which I think are wonderful, even if it was heavily criticized by him. I think they're very good. And in a way was trying to, let's say, when I do kind of pedagogical work, I try not to be much pedagogical. I try to just put a problem, at the same time to give some hint of the solutions. No? And really was very difficult to choose how to work with spiritual or whatever. No? And then I thought that because the thing will never be built, the thing you are doing, then I thought which could be a kind of material that whatever they do, whatever they think, in a way moves into the site and has connections through religion, even through religion, not through religion, through the religious states, no? Because then I like these kind of things to be almost independent of the feelings. No? I like it to be very material in a way, no? And then it was not easy, and I think was the conversation with Josep Miasa, my collaborator in the seminar, that then we thought, let's ask them to do whatever they want to do it with walks, no? Because I think in a way, and that then when I saw that, I thought, that's not, no? I mean, because in a way, and then from walks we came into the candles, no? So in a way, and then from the candles we then buy candles, go somewhere, do something, that's the problem. No, but I think it was quite important to see that there is some materials, no, that you share in many religions. That thing of light, the candle, the light of something, I thought was really something, let's say, a good material to start with, no? Because I think it's not just a matter of thinking or being abstract, it's also a matter of which materials you work with. I don't know, I'm going to talk a bit about that also through the slides. Maybe we could start. Could we put the slides? I have some notes which are going to be useless. No, because this one isn't a special lecture. It probably will be a disaster because I put the things together. Okay. I think it's very hard. Do you hear the same, please? It's not open, so. Now? No. Now? So then. Okay? No, because you see, I was saying that walks was the thing that in a way I offered to the studio to work, and in a way Earth was what was offered, let's say, in a way or another it's very difficult not to almost quote Ruskin when you are talking about these things. I think in our profession Ruskin maybe is the one who's been more talking about these things, having the personal strength to talk about sacrifice, offer, and these kind of things. I think Paulus one, if you are interested in these subjects, some of the 7 lamps of architecture, the lamp of sacrifice, I'm sure you quoted a lot in your seminars. I think it's a crucial text. So this thing, in a way, when we start dealing with in that case, with barbell, something very simple like digging or excavating, it came as the material to work with. No? And I think in that sense, I think when we dig and we expose the cut, I would say the complete project was done. I mean, later we will see tower. Then you see the refinishing again of the section phase was nothing else than doing the same. So it was cutting the earth, letting this kind of communal tone in a way, covering the cut with the trees, so in a way the growing of the trees will make the place disappear. I think, again, one of the things I've been learning slowly is how much time, personal time, has to do with that. I mean, has to do with this kind of feeling. So, I mean, how much personal time, which is your personal time, your life that you offer to offer whatever. I'm trying to be rusty today. But you give to the work, it's a lot about the setting and about religion. So in a way, it was cutting, replenishing again the earth, and then, let's say, almost adding things as notes, almost. But also I'd like to mention that this is loaded with sentiments, but the main attitude in relation to the project was, in a way, not to load it from myself. In a way, I could describe the project, and I think it's very important to do it in this way, that trying to avoid any direct metaphorical or any direct, let's say, any information which was loaded before from ritual and coming into the project. I think you could describe that once you had understood the idea of this section and that in a way a big cut will be done on the place to have the bodies on both sides. And then the cut will be covered with trees, so we'll let time grow into the thing. I think if you avoid the symbolic implications of that in a way very realistic, is just about burial has even been known like this, no? Then I think the description of the geometry has a lot to do with it's almost like drawing a road, I would say. It's not such a different, a kind of a slow slope road for a kind of comfortable path will not be possible in many other forms. I think, and this is what really was my intentions. I think there were a lot of sketches that I was trying to do this kind of valley things ending into this kind of river. And the same topography refuse that. It becomes very artificial. Because if you imagine the same zeta shape being drawn on the contour slope. No? So at the end, it's saying the effort just of fitting with a precise slope and get this kind of form. At the end, have the dimensions and the qualities of the site itself. So you will see that most of the ideas were about that, and not about any precise, let's say, feeling. Of course, I have the feelings, but I prefer almost not to think about, not to think on the symbolic consequences of the acts, because the problem is that when you define a land sacred by its memorial quality because of the cemetery, everything we do has meaning. And really, the project was trying to resist of that. Let's say, if you walk, you have a meaning. If you stop, you have a meaning. If you move your hand, it has a meaning. No? And really was trying not to do that. No? Really make some statements. No? And were really physical, as you see, as I showed you at the beginning with the earth. No? And in a way, let's say this kind of discipline. I'm showing these slides first today because I think the discipline of for instance, introducing iconography. No, that you should imagine that from a young architect, it's quite a difficult task because we took it as almost as a kind of programmatic thing, as I will say, as putting oxygen balloons in a hospital. No, it's something that really should enter the project. I'm quite curious, this kind of crosses. I will explain it later, but at the end they happen to be three. Also because a kind of game about the pedestrian access, the car vehicular access. So I think, of course, we stop at the moment we have three, but that was really not start thinking from the cross point of view. And then you see them. I will explain a lot better later, but also they try to get mixed with the dimensions of the trees and all this kind of much more figurative approach. And also it's a way of bringing the line into the sky. But again,
in its physical quality. It's almost like a gate. At the end, if you look at it from the country, it's a bit a contradiction, to enter through a cross. I mean, the cross usually, it's at the end, it's somewhere, it's a kind of reference. And here the crosses, they're really working as fences. I think or really something that you need to open it to go through it. And when you open it, the cross appears. But I think was, and for the lecture of today, I think I found it quite necessary to show you this book. Not least to talking to an architect audience, to see how much it's impressive when we think how much formal experiment has been done through churches, through precise religions. It's impressive. Just remembering some of the illustrations, I took one of the more recent manuals about formal qualities or formal investigation, which is the very book. I think it's amazing, full of churches. I would say the 50% of the illustrations, and you could not avoid stopping in I will not do it because if not, we will get burned here because it's very hot. But I think if you take the Venturi book and then you look through pages, you will be impressed. I mean, you will be impressed about how the book seems to be just a criticism of churches. I mean, how much and how different they are. I mean, going from Fisher to like the previous Borromini, the facade of Murcia, the interior of the Paleo-Christian churches in Rome, the sections of Claudio and Bramante, sorry, Palladio, and everything. It's really amazing, even with this kind of, when he starts talking about numbers, the gate in Santiago, or whatever. I mean, it's, even the Holy Sepulchre, the facade in Malaga Church. But you see, the whole book, and I think, unconsciously or not, part of the experimentation about architecture has to do a lot about this architecture. I would say a lot of the things which is being experimented in religious buildings it's almost an unconscious part of, I think, our learning. I think it is. Because at the beginning I took the Venturi book just to show you Santa Maria dell'Apace. Santa Maria dell'Apace, at least for me, is one of the examples that is being probably more present so many times. So when you start thinking in the relation between a public space and an institutional building, Santa Maria dell'Apace, I'm sure you know the building very near Piazza Navona, this fantastic opening on the medieval grid by Pietro da Cortona. And I was really impressed by always how Venturi is so subtle in these things. In the page in the book that Pietro da Cortona building is just a blank page, which is very subtly connected with the beautiful wooden ceiling in the Villa Mairea in Maison Carré, in Maison Carré by Alba. I mean, it's impressive. I will not, because this is not a seminar, I will not lecture about that, but I think it's a lot of intuition and secret knowledge about these two illustrations in the Venturi book. I'm proposing Venturi as a religious manual. I think it's impressive. Probably it's very unconscious because he doesn't enter on that, but he found that the richness of the material, in a way he could talk, he only found it in these buildings. I think I was quite surprised. I don't know, I've been thinking on showing this to you. And the other building I was looking in the book is the Boxedista Chapel by Alto. Because I think probably talking about physical space, it's one of the, it's this one, what's listed here, and it's one of the most precise ones. I'm showing all these things, and these things are not related to the cemetery, part of the material. But if you remember what's in Iska, just slides to remember, it's a precise building that now even is on the common. For a long time it's been on Russia, and then the front is moved, and it's a church that also was built on this special social situation about that the church should be most a civic center, a place for gathering people, and just be occasionally a church. It's occasionally a place where sacrifice is represented. And I thought it impressive always how you could describe this plan. I know these things precisely later than the senator, so it's not. How you could describe these plans almost that you make a sketch about like a series of independent rooms being put together. I mean, the Bolsonista church and the slides you have seen, this is North Light and it's nothing else than hanging screens for closing this and changing it into a social center for political parties gatherings or discussion about neighborhoods. So I think it was impressive how this very secular building, he was able to combine both things so precisely. I think he did it because something very curious on that in a way goes back to the idea of the materiality of the thing. That is the way in which, if you think this is a church, and also much more on the Protestant kind, no? Even this is Catholic, but it's a church which is based on the word, on the speech. And I think I found it wonderful. Alto was always very intuitive and was, I'm sure, has no any mathematical logic behind it. It's just the expression of a strong intuition. How much, even if you think about how we analyze physical treatment of waves, we could describe light movements and sound movements in these short distances almost in the same way. So in a way, I could describe the section of the thing that is very similar to the plan, just because this kind of line which is coming from the speech, no? And at the same time, you remember the plan. I don't know if you remember the plan, a lot of the, you remember even the unity, a lot of the space is being defined how the line goes through. It's almost, you could imagine a space which is the crossing, even in right angle, the crossing of the north line which entered from here, and the speech which is moving in that sense. And the same gathered in this kind of units that have been well encircling people. Well, I think it's really wonderful how he was able, in this kind of fantastic moments, Alto sometimes have, not always, and sometimes he's able to really to describe how physically the space could be built. And it came to be a fantastic church. Even without the necessity of talking about the precise ritual. I mean, it really becomes a church at the moment. I'm sure the sacrifice is represented there, but not always. I think it's really like a small auditorium. I think it's a building that you should make an effort to visit. It's amazing. Then coming back to the cemetery. Of course, here it's public space and it has completely different rules. But really the main working idea was this kind of trying to postpone and push all the problems into technical decisions. Almost we doesn't want to talk about more complex things. You will see later how this thing is being changed. A lot about was shaping the forms with spreads in the sense the weight and the same strength and push from there to high and work about reshaping the topography and this idea, probably this idea about reshaping later on, most of all through the work of Alison Smithson, I understood that probably one of the unknown, at least for me, qualities of the cemetery was this idea about, let's say, restoring the land after the land has been, let's say, destroyed by construction. A way to grow a kind of new topography that will allow, let's say, vegetation and dust and, let's say, in a way, time, grow in a similar way that happens in all the small bodies around. It was, and again, this idea about restoration, it's an idea that has become part of our work in many ways. Now we are doing a lot of remodeling and redoing pieces of cities, and always I have this word on my head about restoration in the sense of having to rest, let's say, no? To rest, no? To be able to recuperate. No? You see, no? I think probably the success of the thing is this kind of thing, so that in a way, time and dust, and so the same design of the things that at the beginning, as we discussed today with the studio, had a lot to do about watering and the slope and how the drainage of the water guides the pieces of wood. At the same time, they were quite identical with the same logic of dust. At the same time, the trees grow, the plants grow, and the dust starts occupying the plant. It's upside down. It's upside down. It's not Australia. But you see, no? I think probably the best way to understand these images now is about things like that, about how the leaves are being kept in somewhere. No? I think what is one of the qualities, precise qualities about religion construction is this special, this is completely out of the blue. Then is the reality about these spaces that has a lot to do about let's say, keeping time. No? I mean, it's about really a complete different sense of time, even our relation with it. And that I learned also because a lot of this unfinished quality, that probably the unfinished qualities has something to do a lot with religion and construction. I think probably because, let's say, in reality, always the project from the social point of view goes over the building itself. The normal way to find a church is unfinished. I mean, it's accept this kind of tiny churches and then suddenly after 2 days they change it completely. But I think this kind of quality of a work that will be done later, or something that we're just doing in a small bit of that time. I think for me was quite something impressive in the cemetery. Because you see, in the way that the idea of remaking again the land, this was probably the big difference between the set a shape competition and this second thought about the digging and the land, and then this kind of piazza, which is at the end of the, you will see later in the plan, but was what really made the project change, and again try to lose its kind of much more, because the Zeta has something about let's say, kind of a street, a kind of, could be a city, could be something. You should remember that Aldo Rossi was doing these city monuments, and then we thought that was much more in the land, which would have a complete different quality. Because this is the quality of the cemetery, and everything is reduced out of that. It's taking these earth out, the way to build the path, and putting this earth up again on the borders to build all this kind of landscape around. And you see, that is probably the second sketch. And I will say with the second shape sketch, the competition one, probably it was too direct a construction. Here is in a way a construction, at the same time, the transformation of the construction into a topography, or something like that, that in a way has the unfinished quality in its own. And these small dots are about the reshaping of the land out of the castle. And also really working out openings, not just the streets. And out of that is where it grows. I think also this necessity almost to find a specific almost calligraphy to do that. And this is the second building that. No, I'm going to destroy. This is the second building that comes, is also in the Venturi book, but I discovered much more later than in the cemetery. I'm sure you're familiar with that. This is a chapel done by Brickman. Brickman is an architect. It's a bit later between Alto and Jacobsen, just to have an idea of that. And I found it impressive, the effort he did to collect all important pieces of nature in a room. No? And to develop almost a writing. No? I think it's quite impressive how, of course, the church is based on the classical section of a church, whatever. No? But besides that, I think the way in which almost he approaches construction, almost with writing, no? Almost in the classical way that you would write your thoughts, no? Almost in the, I like to think it's almost about praying in these drawings. No? I found it really, really impressive. I would never say solve minds, but I think it's a lot about going across, thinking about that again. You see, canceling it almost. No? I think using the veneering of the materials. You should imagine Mies van der Rohe would never do a drawing of this kind. The veneering would be something physically important, like travertine or marble. No? And here the veneering is, I think it's for me very good. How in a way tries to cancel the cross, and by this act of cancelling, enriches it so much. You know, today we were discussing about, but I'm trying to explain that from a technical point of view, out of any special meaning, out of just seeing how in a way this kind of thing even could be almost sent into construction. And of course, for me, even the best is not this iconography, because at the end, I could say that it's quite childish. No? It's quite childish at the end, the result. But I think it's very difficult to be mature with these issues. So what you see between the shadow mixed with the relief, the same rough quality of the stucco, the wines. No? I think it's about doing it at the same time, being ashamed of the best way, having enough doubts to start the materiality of the wall to make a dialogue to the cross, and at the same time, the materiality of the stucco, the wines, or whatever, to have the same ontological quality, let's say. It's probably, and I think a lot of that is something that in a way I learned myself through the time passing in the cemetery. You know what it means, one of these walls that let's say, of course we could think on early Renaissance paintings by Van Eyck, for instance, no? About how light has all this kind of, there could be a lot of books about that, how light has a lot to do about precise description of the way Jesus Christ was engendered, things like that. No, but I think here it's really about the materiality of the light itself, and how these kind of things is really making us, let's say, doubt more than really a positive, clear affirmation. And for me, the Brinkman Chapel and its calligraphy has been very important. But later on, I think this has no, when we did the sanitary, we didn't know this thing. So it's, again, your own projects are a good tool to learn and discover things. So I think it's almost, if you really found it as something surprising and don't know how, in a way, pillars will become even a kind of iconography. No? And it's really impressive. This is, here the pillars are really coming from one of the early basilicas. No? Just because of this kind of, even imaginary things like that. Aspen, in a way, he was almost able to do it, but Aspen was much more classical in a way, playing the scale. Aspen will never allow wine to occupy the space. No? And that, probably, this is the chapel of our cemetery, how it's been for, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years. So I think we had some money and then they did the walls, and then I convinced the builder to put the scaffolding, but then he broke, so and disappeared. So in a way the chapel was like this for many years. I mean, when I say 5 years, it means nothing, but 5 years going there every month, it's a lot. No, really, and in a way, I always thought that this was the best of the chapel. I mean, and we kept some wood that I like to use it somewhere. I don't know, but this wood is kept in the work. So I think, in a way, also this kind of very slow process allows you, in a way, this kind of almost free thinking. Because if you see that was this space completely full of these dense forest. So, and I think I'm convinced that was very beautiful, and also thinking that the same section of the cemetery was a lot about that, putting trees inside and letting them grow. I think almost when you define this space as sacred, let's say, when this forest starts happening inside, you think that probably is a better solution than the one you can propose. No, I think, because here the way it was describing the religious quality by its ritual, no? And I think this is very much on the line of Aspern Cemetery, the way letting position of objects be related to views and then establish a ritual. Probably you never need to be passive about that. I think the whole tree is really that it starts by one of these things that I like to imagine a bit of black sense of humor. Because I think, again, the Spanish tradition has a lot to do about this kind of black sense of humor. But in a way, I always hate well, okay, I don't know if I hate. It's not kind of reality which I like to play. But if you see when there is a ceremony about somebody dead, it's always outside of the church, a beautiful car, very clean, full of flowers, and with somebody waiting there, which is the chauffeur, And I like it, both things. So I think here probably the thing that breaks the rule was thinking that we need a portico. This is the definition of the space of the church as simply by pushing the walls. And this is a glass wall that you will see later. And in a way the car was bringing it inside of the ceremony. So in a way, when you break the rules, all these kind of offerings in terms of writings, flowers, whatever, I think it's very beautiful to have it as the background of the ceremony. So in a way, I think then the chauffeur wants to go to smoke, he's alone somewhere. But I think the car here was really important. In a way, the line goes into that, and this is the street, let's say, and also it's the gate. So you see at this moment, the whole thing starts working. But again, you should define it almost precisely by ritual programmatic almost, knowing that the priest will be living here. Then another game that this is between a game and a religious act. It's that the priest will go out from his room, out of a revolving door. But of course this could be almost like a joke. But at the same time, revolving doors are the doors that keep the secret on the convents. So in a way, the dialogue between the inside and the outside world in a lot of convents is not a hidden secret revolving door. And I think I really like it, the distance in between what is the sacristy and the sacristy is very near to the medical doctor where the coffins are kept and the autopsies and things like that. So in a way, it's all this kind of very pragmatic and real way, almost medical way of dealing with death. So the jumping to the church was not easy, and I like it to be quite far. So in a way, there is this kind of ceremony about going through. And this is the coffin, this is the priest, etc. So in a way, you see that just by thinking in the walls and the place where to have as a kind of origin for a ceremony, and at the same time, in a way, that dictates how you position things. So if you see the fence, this wall door, was a lot about this forest. I think in a way, having there the trees, I was quite happy. It was really, for me, it's been a formidable moment of the project. And now it's a bit better, but this is still something like that. Because the sketch of the church was, of course, like this. It was a clean sketch in which, again, as I told you before, the fact of accepting the cross as a programmatic part of the project, then the normal crossing of two beams to avoid the pillar will be a normal act. But here it gets a completely different aspect. Let's go back to the moment. No, this is an old plan. The only thing I have added to that, because of a very long time, this has been taken to the building and the beams are not as good as I thought. At the end, I added 3 small pillars supporting this center. So in a way, again, for some of the, I don't know if the photos you will see here, but I think this quality of the forest now is at least supporting that in some points. And you see there, and this is the thing how it is now. It is almost like a parking garage, because this work is used for that. And people, instead of leaving the car outside and leave it inside, which again, probably is not bad. You see, it's almost like seeing this kind of a space being used for many things. And what I think was important was that this kind of light that will come on the top of the entry is carrying. You will see later when you see the cemetery, it's a lot about the same precast pieces that cover the coffin. So in a way, it was again very physically. The light that gets inside of the cemetery is almost built out of that thing. So later on you could say whatever you like. And that is some of the staircases that goes up into a kind of roof garden, and now it's half built. I have not the slides because I forgot it, but the roof is already done. You have a kind of garden in which you can be there almost waiting. But let me jump from this staircase to this one. This is a small staircase we did in an industrial bridge in Barcelona. And I think probably it's the only building that I've been doing consciously as a result of what conventionally is understood as a religious movement, which is this thing that we have done so many times about covering a space like this, you know? Like putting 2 hands together. And I thought, I don't know why, maybe because the place was really a heavy industrial area. So I built this kind of 2 pieces of concrete that in a way they make you individual when you really enter to work. And it's quite curious that this industrial bridge has become the gate for visitors. I mean, it's really elaborated and completely out of any logic for the place. But for me it was an experiment on that, and it also was done in personal difficult moments, so that you really need to maybe concentrate yourself, and the buildings starts being much more about these things, and the pillars has the dimensions of the body and things like that. I never talk about these buildings because it's very difficult. It's something really very personal. You see, there's nothing else than the end to an industrial bridge. It was a very heavy construction that brings loads from one factory to the other. It's quite 180 meters, so it's quite an important precast construction. And then we built the bridge, and then that was the emergency exit. So I think really the possibility to build it was because in the middle of the bridge you need an emergency exit to be more than 50 meters out of each door. But you know, because this kind of things nobody cares at the end. And really has made, this is the Nestle factory, the chocolate. So then it has become the place in which the children and the visitors enter the factory. And the way again, it was a very personal relation with the construction. And the builder was very nice and he did it. Because you see, the project was this, was really a straightforward industrial construction. But again, you see, even in these spaces, sometimes, again, the light and things like that play its own ideas. Go back to the cemetery, you see it's almost quite similar in technique. Because the whole cemetery at the end, it's the cut and it's covered or by the coffins itself, or by that piece, or by the same earth wrapped in metal mesh and rebuilt again. And that is the outside of the chapel. Being the outside of the chapel in the services, you know, and the door is something very much hidden between the same shadows of the But again, because of the coming of time, I think this is an important idea. The cemetery was a kind of laboratory. We took a lot of photographs but just doing construction and then the cutouts and try to recover from construction almost the remembrance of the project, because even in such a long time you forget what you are doing, you forget that exist plans for doing this. No? you think that somebody did it almost like chance. No? This is one of the small hill in the entry. It's a hill. The plan doesn't exist. You see, it's one of these earth was located here, so here, and then we built a kind of a spiral with this kind of dotted. I will show you. You see this dotted. You see it here. In a way, when you enter the cemetery, almost even again, it's all the time this game. No, about when you enter, you have access, but at the same time, you could lose your time. So this is the classical place in which the children jump, and the mother asks them to come back, and the children doesn't want at all to go back. It's not full of death. It's not nice at all. Well, and I think it's almost a toy, which is key. Later you will see the effects, right? But again, you see that during construction we have time to add these things that even doesn't exist on road. And here is this is the parking lot, really very clear, like almost like a piece of asphalt. No? And this is the lamps that exist along the road leading into the cemetery, again as a clear continuity. And then you could really enter or from the chapel and then go down somewhere or from here. I mean, and when the cemetery will grow, this kind of double movements are very important. Today we were discussing this, but I think when you introduce this kind of figure in the line, you should open the possibilities of music. I think should never be only one way.
Power on and off.
Yeah, but
Okay. Go ahead.
okay, you did the second one.
You have to turn the power on down there, unfortunately. Richard, can you help?
Where is the power on? On and off.
Thank you.
Okay. I know. Good? Good. You see, no? And then you remember the plan. I think even this is on construction, you see, it was about really using the pieces of wood and really keep laying things no? on the land almost like one by one. No? And the same thing that will happen when the conflicts will be there. Here was the scaffolding at the enemy. That was one of the moments of construction. This is finished, but then you see almost there's no difference. Almost again, when the building starts, seems to be finished. No? And I think this idea of time is really crucial no? Because the technical solution is taking almost a classical profile, as we were saying today, about a precast piece that could define this very sharp cut, at the same time protect what is the classical coffin system, use the coffin system as the retaining wall, and then use that in a way to hold the land on top, not even it's possible to walk, and then start playing with the gravitatorial qualities of the section. Right? This is the mechanic, and then again, let time go through. I mean, at the end, this is just for holding the earth. The pavings is like pebbles, this is pebbles with concrete, but it's almost the same. Of course, here you need to have a car or something mechanical here, no? So the way it's almost like playing that game. You see, I think this is a beautiful moment in which the cat is reproducing these things. And this is the pure construction. But I like it in a way, these clear connections between the existing stones and the new pieces. And I think that is because also there is no garden. I mean, it's only one man who takes care of everything. So I think it's very wild. Then one day you go and everything's been cutted. No? Then you need 5 years again. But you see, for instance, this for me was a very nice moment. You see the meaning of these crosses. No? In a way, they become a gate, but at the same time they become the only mark that has the strength to jump from the surface and from the plan into the vertical. And that is the working section, but again, it's something very physical. The moment you cross from one level to the other coming from the church, in a way you're getting the same physical position that the bodies which are laying inside. And I think I don't want to avoid this contact. And you're very conscious of that when you are here, so you go. And I like the ability to play with fear and these kind of things. There is a lot of times in romantic period that there's always a hand coming out. This kind of thing. It's like scribble, not bad. But you see, it's this moment. And I think probably this section describes well the thing. There's the possibility of dividing the section in two and introduce an abstract path here. The other section just played, the front and back, building a kind of landscape, and at the same time, this allows this movement, which in a way, by an act of personal decision, allows you to escape, allows you to go to somewhere more private, to be alone with your own feelings. And so I think in a way, it's quite, as you know, in these moments, the pattern of sentiments are quite established. I think it depends how much you really love relation with the dead. So then suddenly, the cemetery was a lot about escaping, a lot about going somewhere else. And I think it's that. Suddenly you are out again. And nature is not the same. And then you see, no problem, what I've been explaining about Brinkman, you remember this description of nature cancelling things and building its own logic. I think you see it very much here. I mean, the moment the asphalt stops, the small lines of the stone starts to build the wall, etc. So here is the gate that in a way is taking this kind of, let's say, path rhythm into much more spatial quality and doing the frame. You see that one is closing the side pedestrian, and these two are really pushing to one side to let in between this one and this one, the car to go through. And then you start going down. This is a lamp that was done later on, because at the beginning of the cemetery has no lamp. It was not almost like copying the previous sketch for doing this. This was almost the way in which both directions find it almost a place where no space. There is no space in terms of no room for coffee. So in a way it becomes itself almost a kind of monument in a way, because nobody was there. And there is one of the communal tones. So and almost unconsciously digging the sketch again, it becomes almost a repetition of the same sketch. I mean, and the sketch was done probably 3 or 4 years later, just in a way, it's almost like the repetition of the same form. Right? When you see it also, we remember so much this inquisition things. But again, I would say it's part of the game. You see there, and it's a complete change. I think the changes of the scale are quite important in this place. I think here you see when they were building the gates and going down. And I think probably here is the cemetery is defined, not just by this change of level between up and down. This is a slide that I like a lot, because in a way it was just, even during construction, a long time only exists one gate, that when they did it as a try, they leave it there for a couple of years, and they put the other two things. And I think this connection is quite nice. I think how the land loses its stability and the way it starts this kind of descent, and then suddenly the gates are holding you in a way and making the same contact with the external world. I think this is probably one of the slides I really like more. I prepare all this just for this lecture, because I think I never explained it in this way. But you see, it's very beautiful. Even the moment that some snow came there, it's still scared by the humidity of the wood. No? Even I like that. Well, you see, the whole cemetery is about that. It's almost as a kind of register, no? in which inside and outside the shadows. And I think in the lecture, which is not this one, I always describe it like that, in its physical qualities. For instance, the interior of the chapel, and then the chapel is being moved into the facade, which is holding really the same facade of the church, which is here. It's being shown by this kind of a screen that really what the thing is hiding. More than hiding, the screening is the more painful moment. The body exposed, and the doctors, autopsy, and all this kind of medical problems. And this is a very simple glass screen that in a way doesn't need to hide things, not because let's say the sentiments are so strong that everything is fast. And a lot of that was always played in the sense of knowing the things without the necessity to look at them. It's almost like one of the most transparent screens I know, even if it's a stolen screen. You see, the interior is almost like something that you bring. It's really about the light and these kind of lights that in a way grab you but you don't need to see things. No, it's any of that pieces gets a really special meaning, no? In that moment. And I think what is important of the building is that some of that quality is being kept there, almost through graphical qualities when nothing happens. No? And that is, for instance, the door, which is one of the frames that usually cover the coffins. And we're here again in this kind of frontal piece for coffins. I make the effort to introduce the cross again, almost like a tail. I'm sure you know better than me, San Roberto's, this hunter that was converted by this kind of cross he found it on the head of the, you say that animal in English, fierro, deer. How do you know that? The wild hunter that was converted into religion by this deer that comes through the forest. And I thought that was precisely the kind of mythology I like to go through. No? And again, I would like to understand this as a kind of technical approach, no? Almost like a precise call. No? Because I think a lot of the cemetery was about that, approaching the growing of nature and the classical symbolic quality of architect, of religion. In a way, the idea of sacrifice doesn't exist much in this project. It's really a lot about, much more about wild mythology. You know? For that also I like the Primer, I like San Roberto's. You know? I mean, the religion that happens in the forest in a way, because the cemetery was happening there. But again, this is quite unconscious. I mean, it's not, it's the same idea about avoiding to protect materials. No? I mean, this is not corten, it's just a corrugated metal that will disappear in some years. So I think it's about that, letting really time probably over escenified thing, so the thing is exposed and so there's no protection. And I think the brain, this kind of thing should affect that elements, exposure. No problem. I mean, again, describing that. And I'm doing it on purpose, not just to make you bored, but this is because the lesson I learned from this building, to go back and do it again and again and again. Because some of the other projects, this is the church in Rome, they are moving very fast. And I think in a way, we are being supported by this small chapel. Here is a competition in Rome for the church. And I think here, probably the proposal starts being much more social or political or whatever. You could describe the project very simple, like a portico, no? In a way, a portico that circles on a space. It's a suburban area, quite difficult to find any quality except in that case the religious quality of the space itself. So in a way, this is nothing else than the circle I did in the cemetery. So when marking the circle, the guy in the circle by the porch, I think that the portico quality, the public quality of the church in Rome is something fundamental. And in a way making a kind of comment that probably was not much appreciated, but this is the civic center, and this is the church. So in a way, this is the tool that the church is using to get in contact with people, and was trying to give both of them the same importance. So I think this is, I think it's almost a fight between this and this. Or at least the project is talking a lot about where this kind of dialogue with society happens, here or there. And then we're using the portico and the house of the priest, which is here and there in a very beautiful place in the book, between this and this. I think, and that was really very much a very fast project, done as a sketch and send it into this kind of course, there is a lot about long direction of views and things like that. And of course, and then the really the interest of that project, and this is why I'm doing it here, was in a way the jump from the Brickman Chapel, and the jump from this kind of wild nature that could have a religious meeting in its own, to something much more engaged with social. And then I found that probably food, because the project, the bishop asked a lot about iconography. And then I thought, just as a project that is not going to be used or just as starting, I thought that food probably was one way from where to derive again a kind of meaning of iconography. And it's very beautiful. We went to the market and photographed a lot of meat, put it together by people passing and trying to put together, let's say, again, these images that we know really from not from drawing by primitive Tom, I don't know where, but just how this bread is being still on the market. And I thought they could, this is fantastic. In a way or another, I thought that this kind of line is really what would open a new view of iconography. I think really the relation about daily food, or something. And then we started this project with some of these collage, which I really like it. Because they're quite wild, but imagine where the church should be. I mean, this is more wild than this. Besides that is inside of all the fridge there. So I mean, it's quite. And this wine is what everybody's drinking. Lunch or whatever. So I think you see the way they ask you to imagine. No? I think it was quite. I was quite happy. Let's say that I know that there's something there. Today we talk about intuition and things like that, and I know there's something still about to investigate there. We say, so how a place could be sacred. And I think that is quite. And also, which of that was very similar to our project. But and I think we choose it after the project. I will not get the inspiration from here. Not the students will kill it. I do not agree. But I think you see, no? I think sometimes it's not easy to really make a dialogue with kids, no? I mean, it's not, and I think our task is not to be demagogical. Most of all, having remember Venturi book, such a good tool in our hands. So I think it's not. And then the way was this proposal. Of course, it was just at the starting, but it still is a project that I remember very well. I never explained it because I think we were not prepared. The context doesn't make sense. But it's a project that I'm sure I will come back to. It's a long structure that becomes a clear space, public space, and then a house. Here is a civic center, and here is a house. And I like it in a way. The physical continuity from the structure, let's say from a pillar to beam, from here to there, that is able to build and support this continuity. And that was one of the sketches. Again, this kind of continuity was screen and then it was covering and encircling a kind of heavy mass of trees inside. That was some of the volumes, but again, and I think after the project I found that this form probably much more better than the one we did, because I think the pretzel is wonderful. I think it's a very religious branch. I mean, I'm sure it has a long tradition coming, I guess, from the Jewish tradition, but I think it's very wise. No? It's very wise, really. You should start with pretzel. No, because I'm sure it's very long, the pretzel. I have not done the exercise, but I'm sure if you develop a pretzel, it's going to be something like that. It's really very good. Really, really very good. And I think it's a lot of possibilities about that. It's very good religious projects here. No? But this is true, it cannot fly. And that is the problem. When you start dealing with these issues, everything seems to have meaning. No? And this is exactly precisely what I was trying to avoid all the time. No? The promise that to fly the way to the bottom. It's alive, it's not dead. I don't kill it and then put it in the water. I promise you that it's a living fly. And then it's ready to that. And he chose the civic center, not the church. No, but that is a little problem. No, when you are dealing with such. It's really complicated. Go back to our fly. Just remember, and probably the drawing I like most is this one. It gets this kind of small quality of some topography which is revealed in the map. I think if you have visited the place, some of you, this is why, because this is at the end has happened to grow a complete industrial area just until the border. And I think just the small intervention by the strong effort on renewing the land has kept that as a piece of land. And probably, let's say from a very direct point of view, it's the best thing the cemetery is offering, that it still is a piece of land. Still is a piece of land, and then these kind of things you really understand completely different, like a fence, and something that really protects and grows. And I think this resisting capacity, I think is well described. I ask, again, in this kind of necessity to do a dialogue through time, to Giovanni Sanzi, I think a very intelligent photographer, and he shoots his forward to describe the place. He showed me that photo first time, and I was quite impressed. And then I think he described very well what this kind of extended horizon. And again, this was the way to keep the building alive, the way to keep my interest on that. For instance, that is very beautiful. If you remember the first one about the fence closing and protecting this place, and then this kind of enormous opening at the end. Of course, it's the white building. It has nothing to do with precise description, but at the same time, it's a very good way to describe how you remember the thing. It was this kind of, let's say, the river expanded, growing, and that is the fence. You remember this fence that doesn't exist out of the labyrinth, in a way, it's an unfinished construction built out of, it's really unfinished building materials. So in a way, this is an in-between, the industrial zone. Because again, the cemetery is, the only thing that will happen in the time is that I hope this vegetation and exactly that place will grow like this. And again, this attitude in relation to nature was something that I took it as the starting point when they asked me to build a pavilion for meditation in Japan. They asked me to take that road, which is a pilgrimage road. If you have written this kind of pilgrim poems in Japan, these places are full of precise thoughts. I mean, it's like almost like a pilgrimage into meaningful poems. No? You remember a lot of this poetry. And I think maybe the only wise decision was to tell them, move it out of the path, and then take something very physical, which is a cantilever into the void, as the sentiment that I'm going to start working with. You know? almost the opposite of the cemetery. Instead of going inside, in that case was really jumping into the vault, a kind of physical act. And I think to do that was to use this is the path, this is the bridge, this is the path, this is the foundations of the old bridge, and then in the way of another, our proposal was to do an underpassage, and here at the end we just did that, but we go from the foundations to the old bridge to the path, and then we go back again and we follow. So it's almost like an elongation, almost like a breadth. You go back to the breadth and you have it here. You see, we use that existing foundations near the bridge to shoot the existing foundations more of a hanging bridge, much more beautiful than this road one that we do after the war. And then you see taking the pavilion and wrapping it almost around the old foundation. Then I think again, to describe this, I doesn't need, I mean, maybe this kind of wrapping and the elongating quality of the path allows you a moment of thought, but not more than that. And because of the trees, they grow so much, and then now you are completely disconnecting what is the kind of roof canopy or something like that. Then so you have a gate. And you pass through the trees really, and into kind of path, almost hidden there. Then we play a lot with the subtle difference of the floor to make the path possible, but at the same time with the way of sitting the Japanese, so the floor is really steep and treated very carefully, so you know it's a table. And then above you, almost unconsciously, you have this kind of fence. Really the important thing is, I think, that and the views of the horizon and really the fact of being hanging there. So then you could postpone. I think images like that is when I tried to spread the project before it was built, I was using a lot of these images, about this kind of almost human path or human step or human mark getting into the void, something that has a kind of quality in its own. And later on, as I was telling you, the time going through makes almost the project something completely different, almost abstract construction there. But I think it becomes abstract because of the passing of the time and the growing of the trees. And then just to finish, and in a way to close, I've been talking a lot about time and about, and I think probably the only project I didn't just show you because our office does a lot of public work and public spaces, small halls, but I think these tiny things is where really you could start sometimes being more precise. This is a small construction. It's been now built in Denmark, which is a colony cabin, which is one of these houses that you could go with weekends in a small piece of land, but just, you even could not have water, not electricity, it's just a hut, just to protect yourself and to keep the rain. To start this project, now we should do on off, okay? To start this project, we use it the only time I've been using walks. No? It's not walks, it's soil. But I said walks with attention to but one of these materials, that the form is something that will shelter and cover a kind of family some time. And I think it's something to do because in a way is again one of these forms that want to be there in a precise moment of time. I'm sure family uses these kind of things in very specific moments when the kids are very small or when you are older and you have time. I'm sure it's a kind of building that records your personal time. This is the plan, you will see later. And I built a kind of fence, a gate, and some specific very tiny rooms. But in a way, there are rooms, sorry, it's upside down. But there are rooms which are connected with special things like sitting, having a window. But the most important thing, and I've been talking about passing of time in an abstract way in the cemetery, but at the end, I think this time, and I think the experience about your own life. That's a lot to do about time and yourself. And I think it's probably what I really was trying to think about in this project. How in a way a construction could express these different moments of life, which again is a very normal, it's a very normal pictorial issue, even when the painters are not painting about trying to describe the spiritual values through painting. And again, the Dutch painters of the early Renaissance. In this painting, if you remember Holbein, these painters, about the three different moments of your life, as something that is being able to be described. And again, as I was thinking in the cemetery that common sentiments could be described in specific moments, I think this could be described this was a try to describe three moments of your life, and we did it almost thinking a lot about when a child goes and could enter just himself and a small piece of the house, and that the only way to go there is just this kind of place here, in which a chair, but a children's chair could stay, and it's very near the sofa, and so in a way it's almost a time. But I think this color will make almost impossible for you to enter if you don't want to make an exercise. Exactly, this is for laying, so in a way it's like these 2 or 3 positions. And probably I'm going to end by that very fast. I took this curved drawing, if you remember in the modular about I think the modular is a lot about these beautiful connections between dimensions and effort and life. And I think this describes very well Corbu's Petit Cabanon, and then I put that together with a kind of a calendar, the way to storage things, and then in a way we were almost celebrating that, the discovery of that, the discovery of a precise moment in which our daughter started walking on. And I think that this is kind of and I never showed it in the lecture, so I thought today was talking about these things, I could not avoid talking about that. And it's just to think that maybe architecture also in certain moments, in a very clear way, could try to combine these things. So at the end you see, let's try to play the game yourself. Now we will understand better. That's very nice. Cheesecake. This room. That is the last pages of the whole book we prepared to present. And I think in a way, the only thing I like it to say at the end about this folded piece of paper, that at the end, this sentiment that I was trying to describe today, and this is probably the problem to make architecture out of that. That is something very, very light. It's something that maybe you should work better in just in a folded piece of paper, in a thought, in something that you put in your pocket. And it's probably too light to do buildings out of it. I think for that, always when we talk about this kind of constructions, we need to talk about time, we need to talk about other things. Because if not, I think the heavy quality of construction is a difficult tool to talk about these sentiments. Thank you. People die the same, no? No? You die different? But this is a way of putting the tone, nothing else. I think doing a cemetery in Paris, we're doing a proposal, and again it's very different. So I think you should not simplify the problem just because some coffins are put like that. Or, I mean, this is, I would say, a construction problem. No, I think the issue is, whatever you do, a cemetery or a church or one of these, I think you should really start from very basic principles, not from the fact of how the tombs look like. I mean, you should really start by the fact of some bodies under the earth becoming kind of eating material, let's say. No? So, and we do it. I mean, the system, I'm going to be a bit, you say, this thing of like, nos gustan los muertos, necrophilia, I'm going to be a bit necrophilia. I think our system, it's quite beautiful conceptually because the body at the end gets evaporated. So the body goes in the air, because this is nothing else than a system to slowly let the body be air. I mean, it's really quite impressive because a lot of the system is just about, I don't know, okay, but it's about at the end you finish in the air, which is a completely different situation than being part of the earth. No? But this was done, this system of tombs was consequence of Napoleonic desire of clean the old dense cities. Before Napoleonic wars, with all the enlightenment that came afterwards, and the tombs were exactly like those. And then in a way the tradition that has come into America, that usually will happen at the same time that enlightenment, you took land as the main metaphor. But I think, again, you should know these things and play with them, not just be fixed on the final image of the thing. It's okay. Yes.
Much of your work had archetypal quality, and there was also a cultural iconography quality to some of your work, particularly in the cemetery. It seemed to me to have its roots in the Spanish land, where when you drive in the countryside, or even in some of the cities, you find people living in the earth, and their homes in and on the earth. And I seem to feel that same quality.
I don't know. Because you see people living in the earth here in the States also, no? There is a lot of yes, it's a lot of how you name it, these people who live in the streets, they're homeless, no? And I've seen, well, yeah, but sometimes they go to the subway to get, no, because I think, again, no, it's difficult not to, I would say, I would never assume that quality. Maybe it is in the work, because of the work itself, because at the end, it's a human condition. If you have poor income, let's say, I don't know how to say that then you get protected in that place. But I think it's just letting the project be that. It was not really my intention to quote that at all. But I did once a lecture. They asked me to, many years ago, to do a lecture about housing. And I never did a housing project. Now, yes. But and then the thing I did was I took my projects like the sport halls and things like that, and I photographed the places in which homeless will be living, no? Which are always the best. I mean, this thing about being under a bridge, except when it's very cold, it's a quite nice place. I mean, and I was really photographing my works from the homeless, let's say, strategy. No? And it was amazing how you find that, in a way, complete different proposals where you could inhabit the forms. No? But I think this is much on human nature, on human strategy, and being a kind of target.
You mentioned Aldo Rossi.
Yes.
Aldo Rossi's idea of autonomous architecture would be one in which the origin of architecture would be in architecture.
Yeah.
Would you maybe, do you consider nature origin of your architecture primarily? Or do you have a primary kind of origin?
This is difficult to answer because in a way I'm from a generation that we grow with Aldo Rossi books and I think it's a figure that I really respect. The other day I was with Cedric Price, the English architect, and he was so humorous because somebody in the audience asked him about autonomous architecture, and he was saying, "What? Could you say it again?" And because the poor boy doesn't speak very good English, autonomous? Autonomous? Huh? So it was amazing to see somebody like Cedric Price that has gone through all his life without even thinking on the autonomous possibility of architecture. No? Maybe he was joking, I don't know. But I found it fantastic. No? In that sense, that is from where the Turing book came from. Let's see how this kind of discipline, as they name it, it's rich in itself. No? And probably, let's say, if you get form on that, the next step is to see, besides the richness of the thing itself, from where that comes from. No? And I think, I don't know if I'm really interested in nature or not, but at least to expand that, to see able to try and test again the richness of the material we have. First, what could talk about what you could do with that, and one of the things is really to bring it back to nature. No? But again, I will not. Really, my thinking came a lot about being confronted with a problem, things like that. I'm not an independent thinker. Just try to develop it at the same time. But it's an issue that really interests me. Yes?
Briefly about the drawings, because the intuitive process that you see in the site and kind of the major work seems also to be there in relationship between the plan or section and elevation. And another part to that would be, in many respects, they seem like sort of diagrams of the work, and there's perhaps a lot of interpretation in the way that you build.
Yes, let's say this is, the plan of that is becoming academic, no? And then in a way trying to do exercises or whatever. I mean, probably the best academy out of that is Paul Klee, no? When very consciously Klee and others, they took the Bauhaus that very specific years, no? They were really interested on that, no? And I think their diagrams, they get this enormous richness, no? And I think you see the difference between Kandinsky and Klee at that period, no? But again, I think in our work, it's much more easy. I mean, whenever you draw, if you, let's say, you put it on the same reality than something which is measured, let's say any of these side plans, in which you have a road, 3 houses, 2 proprietary lines and 20 trees. Whatever you draw there, if you look at it, you'd say with the same eyes, the reality, it starts being, I don't know, 25 meters by 3, which, I think it's impossible not to confront and not to test your material with the specific conditions. I mean, one exercise I've been doing many times, here in the States is a bit less because you came from a much more clear division of the land, no? But in Europe, when you work in dense conditions, I mean, the form of the sites, the form of the ownership of the land, which is defined by the legal document, is the most strange abstract figure you could imagine. I mean, if you really take a form of the land, I mean, it's amazing. There is no land, but actually, it's very normal to find something that I don't know, is being divided, and because it has a street, then somebody needs that piece of land, and this was eaten by that, and they give it that. And I think this is a street, and this is another street, okay? It's two facades, okay? And something that's very normal, because that's the other one. So, and I think really something that comes from precise reality about ownership, for instance, no? And it has so much abstract qualities in itself. No? I mean, almost reducing. This is an invisible line. I mean, it's almost like a lawyer document. No? And I think at the moment, you know that this is, I don't know, 5 meters, and this is 10. No? Anything you draw here starts having meaning. No? So I think it's not that. I mean, it's completely different this that if I draw this. No? And then I always tend to draw fixed. Okay, so I never draw this. No? Again, I could draw this. No? Then you draw it here. Here has no meaning at all. No? So I think it really being confronted with specific situations. No? And of course, at the end, a kind of dialogue should be produced. If not, the project will not work. No? It's so simple as that. And then I always try to, the way that, let's say, the drawing or the presentation of the plan, it's able to embody that, no? Embody this, the quality of the living thing, whatever it is.
How does that link with the drawing to constructing?
Right, this is not so easy, but
Because the drawing just seems as one of the weird, so diagram.
But I think diagrams are, now it's a bit, the diagram is something that has bad press nowadays. And I think the diagrams is quite important to describe. The diagram means the organization, no? The organization of the program, let's say. And I think it's something that is very difficult to teach because in a way it's very dry and there's no much joy in it. No? But by position of elements, which is diagram, no? I think you improve a lot. I mean, you discover a lot of things. No? The way we are going to kind of city hall here, where you will put the meeting rooms. Say A, B, or C.
Let's put them around me.
Around B. Quite easy, eh? It's the best place. No? So never put the best room in the best place. You will ruin it. No? So I think you should make it.
Put them between these.
That is I think better because this is the worst place. and I think you could stand there in the back. I mean, the mayor is here, so then should be the first floor. Because if not, he never entered, no? And that's the top. I think the diagram becomes something just by these intentions, not to ruin, let's say, the diagram from the human standard. No? This is a game.
Good job.